Welcome, 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 one and all, to another episode 4 in our season 1 of This Is Us. We are happy to be back with you again another week where we will be delving into real issues that are affecting every family in this nation, every individual, and we just want to share real life issues, real life solutions, those who have been there, done that, and have the expertise to talk in the area of these issues. Welcome to This Is Us, our journey, your journey, our stories, your stories. I want to welcome all of our friends over there on Facebook and those who are watching on YouTube. Tonight, we have another special and esteemed guest with us. And tonight, we are going to be talking about a topic with a little spin on it, of course. We usually talk about youth at risk or youth at risk youth, but this evening on episode 4, we'll be talking about youth at potential. And we'll be hearing from our special guest this evening who has a wealth of knowledge about youth in different communities and what they are going through and how they can overcome their situation. And so tonight with us, we have Mr. Robert Green, and we'll be hearing from Robbie in a few, but let's just hear a little bit about Mr. Robert Green. Now, Robert Green is a multi-talented Jamaican author, growth coach, and graphic artist who currently serves as the technical and communications director and youth minister at Faith Temple Assembly of God in Montego Bay. He was born and raised in the inner city community of Glen Devon. He is the third of 4 children raised by a single mom in what he terms abject poverty. Having overcome many odds and surrendered his life to Christ, Robert pursued theological studies at the Jamaica Theological Seminary, graduating with a bachelor's degree in theology with a minor in leadership and ministry. Since 1998, he has served in many cross-cultural missions endeavors in the areas of sports and youth development in countries such as Northern Ireland, Grenada, Barbados, and South Africa. Now tonight, I want you to welcome our special guest, Mr. Robert Green. Hey, Robbie.
Bless up, bless up.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on This Is Us.
Yes, thank you for being our special guest. Now you'll be joined very shortly by my co-host, my husband, Teddy Jones. He's somewhere checking to see that everything is okay and everybody is hearing us and seeing us. All right, so tonight, Robbie, I want to welcome you to This Is Us. And we know that we're talking about a topic that is very dear to your heart and your ministry and what you currently do. Youth at risk is what we usually term our youth who, somewhat are troubled or have little issues, but today we want to put a positive spin on it. Youth at potential. Tell us some more about this twist with the terms.
All right. One of the things that we always have to do is see beyond the immediate.
Yes.
When we speak about risk, we know that we are speaking about persons with certain vulnerability, the disenfranchised, and also people from a certain demography. It's aimed at primarily in Jamaica, inner city youths. And if you look on the wider scale, it's aimed at youths from countries that we consider third world countries or countries that have fallen from grace on the economical setting. So you talk about Brazil and the favelas, you talk about Northern Ireland and the estates, you talk about South Africa and the varying townships that exist in those countries, you talk about America, you talk about the projects. Mm-hmm. So it always speaks about or speaks to young men, young people who society has somehow neglected, one way or the other. And as a result, there are certain proneness to their to what we call maladaptive behavior. So they may end up in crime, they may end up being pregnant early, they may end up suffering from certain kind of, or they'll be predisposed
Right.
to ending up in dire straits. But when you look on the potential that all of these young people have by observing the trendsetters who came out of these favelas, estates, townships, inner city communities in Jamaica, you recognize that if the verbiage is changed, then you may just have an impact on life.
Right.
If you can point me to something, the bigger picture, something greater than myself, and set me on a trajectory that I'm living for not just the now. Yeah, I know I have certain challenges. I know I'm born in certain communities, but if you can help with your words, just by how you class me, how you title me, you may just point me to something greater than myself. And
Right.
most of the stories that I've heard about persons who became successful, there was a coach, there was a youth pastor, there was an older man in the community, there was a man who sell cane on the corner who normally sit down beside, or whatever it is. But there was always somebody who spoke the right words.
Yeah. And even with you, Robbie, growing up in a inner city community, Glendevon in Montego Bay, we all know the stigma attached to certain communities. But you have come out. So share with us as a youth growing up in such communities. And my co-host is now here with me.
Virgin Hills.
Bless up, Lord.
Yeah, man. Yes, bro. Glendevon, Montego Bay. I remember the first time you took me there, sometime in the latter part of 1998. I was fresh, still fairly fresh.
Just come off of the plane.
Still going through a whole heap of culture shock.
Yeah.
And that long bus ride to Montego Bay, like 4 hours, and then we got into this place, and I mean, boy, everything was looking so scary. But that was home for you. That was where you grew up. That was where you learned in the school of the hard knocks.
Yeah, man.
A community that still has its challenges, but has come a long way and has produced so much positive, yourself and many others. But what was it like growing up there, and particularly as it relates to what you saw, what you experienced within the context of your own family and the families around you, how that shaped your growing up, your formative years as a youth in Glendevon and other youths that you would have grown up with?
Yeah, so, all right. My first memories of life was in a smelly one-room situation that housed myself, my 2 older brothers, my sister, my sister's father, and my mother. There were 5 rooms in this place we used to call shop house.
Oh.
So that was as you entered through this, it was tenement yard kind of vibes, because there were 2 connected yards. So as you entered through the gate, our room was right there. To the left of us, you had another room that housed Shauna, Garfield, Donovan, Miss Bibi, and Miss Bibi Man. Then to the right of Miss Bibi, I had Miss Cooley, Lydie, Dodo, and Muffy. Then
so everybody heard and saw what was
everything
happening all the time.
Yeah, it was 5 rooms that housed over 20 odd people.
Wow.
There was a dingy little bathroom that I have never used in my life. It was because the house was kind of submerged. They dug out the rocks to build the house. The bathroom never get any light. So and there was no light. There was no legal light connection either. Right. So the bathroom was always moist, stink, absolutely stink. There was no running water in the place either. Yeah. So those are my earliest memories of life. Yeah. In the streets of Glendevon, you had almost every week you could bank on seeing some kind of violence. Back then, it was mainly, though gun was present in the community because we had gone through, I grew up a little bit after the tribal wars in the West or in Jamaica. So guns were present, but the everyday fighting was more back in them time, the machete, and I've seen men, you know, getting chops in front of me, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Every weekend there was a dance or two. I would leave youth meeting on a Friday night before I became a Christian and go to Tika music or Pieces music, which were big sounds back in the days out of the West. And occasionally you'd have Stone Love come on the corner.
Right. The days of the big song system and
yeah. So that was my lifestyle. Violence was commonplace. Woman cussing was commonplace. You know, poverty was apparent. Though I, as a young person, I really know say poor. You just go with what life handed you. But when you started going to high school, you recognize birdcage, I'm really poor, you know?
Yeah.
But the hands of poverty were apparent. Really, really apparent. Growing up in Glendavon. And then as I became a teenager and guns started to move back into the community, into the hands of younger people, we had certain gangs notorious gangs that, you know, would be on the news. So you had the grandfather for the Stone Crushers. The Stone Crushers may be the one most known to people now, but you had the grandfather gang because it's one family that kind of really, you know, as the older person died, another one rise up and start a different gang and then a different gang and it came right down. So, you know, these are some of the stuff. Alcoholism, as an alcoholic from I was very, very young just because of the abuse I saw in my home, my mother being kicked in her belly even she was pregnant with my sister. And being the third boy, I wasn't able to retaliate because I was the youngest.
Right.
So as a result of that, I became very, very introverted, you know, just turning to the bottle from very early.
Yeah.
Very, very early. When you go buy a room, nobody really check your age back in the city because
you were free to purchase anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you at all any bit influenced or initiated in any of these gangs? Were you tempted? Were you given the opportunity to carry guns to defend?
No, in my growing up, as I said, I think if I had grown up in this current Glendavon, that would definitely be my story. But growing up back then, I remember in that little one room, my brother and a guy who was actually on Jamaica's one of Jamaica's most wanted man, few years ago, they would gamble in my house. You know, because that's a house where my mother is a craft vendor, so she was never there. And so they'd come there and gamble. And on my street as well, hey, God good enough, because on my street as well, when somebody wanted to join a gang, they'd move away from my street. Because on my street, there were the elders on my street were more men who came out of the tribal war kind of vibes, and there were more. We had a sports club on my street. We would play football. It was one of the flattest streets in Glendavon, so we'd play football. So sports was the alternative. And the elders would not allow you to get involved in certain things. So even that guy, when he wanted to become a part of a gang, he went to the road parallel to ours.
Right. Yeah, you have to move away.
Yeah. So our street, the elders kind of hold the levels on my street. So we didn't really have until now. Like nowadays it's there, but one of the most notorious, well, one of the gangs of them called the name most in Montego Bay comes from the street I grew up on. But back then it was more alcohol and smoking. I remember the first time I inhaled weed. My brother and his friends cupped their hands like this and put the lit part of the spliff in their mouth and cover my nose and my mouth and blew it. So the smoke filled their hands as they cupped my mouth. And I had to inhale. So
inhale that boy.
And that was from I was very young. That was from I was like in primary school.
Yeah.
You know,
so you were exposed to these things. Right. And earlier you spoke about your siblings and your sister's father, but I did not hear you mention your own father. How did that affect you? And we all know the term father wound, probably not everybody, but you didn't mention your father any at all. How did that affect your growing up and so on?
My father was around, but listen to this, the account of my mother, bless up Miss Dar.
Blessed memory.
When my mother and father split just before I was born. Yeah, but she was pregnant with me. And I had two older brothers, so my father wanted a girl. So the story is that when I was born, because I wasn't delivered in the hospital, I delivered Miss Bibsy. Not Miss Bibi, Miss Bibsy delivered me.
At home?
Yes. So when I was born, my father was there. And when she went out and said, it's another boy, I heard that my father kiss him teeth and say, boy again, and walk out, you know?
Wow.
And then very soon after he had gotten married to his now wife, I suffered at that lady's hand to some extent as well, because, you know, whenever I visited there as the child who visited that yard the most from my mother, and, you know, comb would lick me in my head and those kind of things.
Right.
My father did not even know how, the first time my father said, I love you, was as doing my pastoral internship in St. Thomas. And while going over on Sunday morning to preach Father's Day, I sent him a message, Happy Father's Day, Daddy, love you. And he sent back, me too. That is the first and only time my father ever said he loved me, because me too, me know what I mean.
This is in your 20s. This is
Yeah.
now in your 20s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the relationship wasn't one that I can, like, I've never, I said this to church the other day, I was preaching on grace, that I can never ever remember my father hugging me as a youth, but I can remember the one time my father took a retro and licked me.
Oh,
Mhm.
can
Yeah.
you imagine you remember the negative?
Right.
I've never been hugged by my father. The first time we embraced was for a picture, and I initiated, because he's well shorter than me, so I initiated and put my hand around him.
Yes. And I can just imagine how awkward that moment was, right?
For him, not for me, because, you know, man deal with them thing and heal from all them kind of stuff.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
even my father wouldn't came because, you know, again, I had to turn to the bottle. I was witnessing this abuse at home, and then his wife wasn't kind in those days to me. My
Right.
father wasn't
Child.
stepping in and
The whole
defending.
stepchild.
Yeah, I wasn't getting the support. Like my two older brothers were supported properly. I had to hustle while going to high school. So while going to high school, I collect all my lunch money on Sunday and buy banana chips, bag juice, and biscuits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you took I remember you sharing with us, so you took the books out of the bag to make room for the rum bottle.
For the rum bottle, because I hustle not to buy KFC, you know. I hustle so I could buy rum for drink at night time and liquor for cargo school in the days.
Right. To all about masking the pain.
Yeah, man. There was a lot of it.
Provide an avenue for release from all of that pain and
Yeah.
suffering.
Yeah.
How prevalent was that among the youth when you were growing up? Maybe not, for some it might not have been the rum, it might have been the cigarette or the weed or the gas, but the whole seeking an escape from the vexed realities and the vexing situations in which they were immersed.
It was, all right, they were in, as I say, on my street, Infernal Street, big up Infernal Street. We had varying outlets.
Yeah.
And because we had a football club that was there, it steered a lot of us away from certain things. Yes. But when it come on to, like my two older brothers were big weed smokers. Yeah. Most of the guys were just like me at that stage, drinking. And because the sessions were always there, we would always get plastered or, you know, just proper watered throughout. The smoking was a thing as well. I'm trying, as you're talking, I'm just trying to scan through my mind the amount of us, because there were a lot of us who grew up without our fathers.
Yes.
A lot of us who grew up in single-parented home or single-mothered homes.
Yeah.
And
that reality continues to be such a feature of our society to this very day.
Yeah. You know, so the saving grace on Infernal Street was the sports club.
Right. And we're going to come to that in a little bit when we get into you sharing about the specific strategies and the specific ways in which we can really accentuate what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Pulling out the potential that is in our youth and ensuring that they are able to rise to that potential, irrespective of the risk factors and the push factors.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to that in a moment, but I'm glad that you keep mentioning it, because I think it is one of the highly underutilized tools currently. So we're going to come to that. You mentioned the role that your encounter with Christ played in pulling you out of that. So tell us a little bit about how you came to faith in Christ. And, you know, we're going to have to fast forward a little bit. As we indicated at the beginning, you're serving as youth minister there at the church, you know, and that ministry there is just such a blessing. So tell us a little bit about that saving grace and what that has meant for you as an individual, and then how has the collective of those experiences, your upbringing, and the journey that life has taken you on, how has that shaped your philosophy of youth ministry?
All right, so I think back then, church was a must on a Sunday morning. My mother rarely went to church.
Those were the days.
My mother, father rarely went to church. But I had to go to at least Sunday school.
Right.
And because I was the youngest of 3 boys, my 2 older brothers could miss church, but I had to stay in church.
Yeah.
You know, as you got older, you kind of switch away. But I had a vibrant youth ministry that myself and my friends used to go to. And before we became Christians, we would leave youth ministry on a Friday night and go to the dance, because that was so maybe 15 of us leave youth ministry and we just walk up, because we're from the same community. And at the time we had a young pastor.
You were guys, were men?
Mostly males.
Okay.
Mostly males. A few females. So we'd go to a couple of the females' yard sisters and sit there while dance all on.
Okay.
But in that church, we had a young pastor. And he and his wife, they came to youth meeting every night. And they didn't come to youth meeting and impose themselves on the youth meeting.
Important.
So they came to youth meeting and allowed us to run up and down in the church to just behave crazy. We were garrison youths.
Yes.
Yeah? And because we had some very good-looking young females there as well, Friday night youth ministry became a large part of me going to look at a woman, and you get me, because and the vibes are just right.
Yeah.
The vibes
what age was this, Robbie? What age was this?
I think from high school, like high school years.
It's what it is. I mean, you hit puberty and it's about the girls.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, because I started high school at 11. So I think as I started 7th grade right up, then I was going to that church, but I became a part of the youth ministry. And they allowed us space. So I was singing on men's choir before as a Christian. Right. We were in drama competitions before as a Christian. So they allowed us space to explore the things that the garrison made. Because garrison don't want someone sing pan a choir and getting on that drama and them kind of thing there.
Exactly.
Yeah? But church kept me in that and gave me that expression. Because I always loved acting, writing, poetry, that creative side of me.
Yeah, but still, let's pause there for a bit, Rob, because I think it is particularly significant for those who are in youth ministry and church ministry who are watching, because it is something I have shared when conducting seminars on missions or anything to do with youth ministry, and sometimes it actually comes up as a question from the audience, and you said it, the struggle that a lot of church leaders have with what you have said, the belief that in order for the youth to participate, they first need to be officially recognized as a Christian. And I mean, I'm glad to hear that those who were a part of the youth leadership then share that view as I do, because I certainly believe that before that the order needs to be reversed, that we have to create a space where the children and the youth can be just that. Be themselves and participate in the activities without us first trying to impose on them this requirement.
Yeah.
Because it it works in reverse. When you create that space and you offer the kind of guidance, and you're not forcing anything, you're not imposing anything on anyone. That is where you find the greater likelihood of those persons wanting to stay, wanting to be a part of the more that is there to experience. So I wanted us to just zoom in on that. I know it is highly unconventional, and let's just say on this podcast, we did indicate that we are going to go deep, we are going to rock the boat deliberately. We are not about maintaining the status quo. We are about what works, and sometimes what works is what is disruptive. Yeah, man. Here it is, Robert is telling us from his personal experience that is how he got started. Go ahead. Yeah,
and not just me, because, all right, so back then, as I said, a lot of us as young men used to go to that church. And I can maybe say most of us. So I'm call some. So you have myself, Birdie, as our nicknames, Reggae, who was a part of it. We used to call Doogleman, Yuan. All of us got saved, young men in our teen years, because of that, because we had the opportunity to explore these things within the church.
Right.
Out of that, you had a couple who left the faith. Yeah. I think those names I called, maybe just one person is still outside, but everybody else is inside to some degree.
Great. Yeah. Great.
The guy Reggae, he became the pastor at that very church. Wow. And we all got saved as young men who could have been otherwise minded. I tell people, if I wasn't a Christian, I'm not even sure if I'd be alive, because I'd be one of the richest scammers of Montego Bay.
Exactly.
One of the richest scammers of Montego Bay. But the church gave me that opportunity to remain.
Right.
To remain. We had football, and again, the youth pastor. He's one of the persons who, not youth pastor, he was a pastor actually. But he and his then wife were the persons who helped to motivate us. I never felt pressured, forced into church or Christianity. When I became a Christian at camp. And the first year, the pastor sponsored us. So load up in our white ladder.
Yeah, we actually getting into some of the practical stuff. Even though we would not carry just any question. But
so I'm a camp baby.
Right.
Yes, the 28th of July.
Now I see why you are so much in support of and advocate for camp ministry as a way of harnessing the potential that is in youth.
Yeah. And so the first year we went to camp, and I saw young people from across Jamaica celebrating God. Yeah. And I was not a Christian. Most of us who went from the church weren't Christians. But the pastor decided, you guys have to go, and he brought us up and came back for us. The second year, he sponsored, I think, part of the money again. And because I'd gone on experiences, I wanted to go. Now, by then, I was maybe in 10th grade. I had squandered my chances at Cornwall College, so I was going to be expelled, gotten in fights, gotten in all different kind of things. School like about 6 months of school one time, 3 months of school the next time. Just not being like, I went into all the dunce class, I just hated high school, the academics, but high school was the best time because I have friends now that I play football with, Sundergan, who I met in high school, almost 30 years of friendship. But by then, woman and all these kind of things. So I went to camp one year and I said, God, because I was going to be expelled from Cornwall College. I don't promote fleece bargains, but I said to God, listen to me now. You see me there right now? I was talking to 5 girls at the time. Most I met through church. And I said, my life is ruined.
Talking to 5 girls at the time.
There were 5 women one time.
What do you mean? Oh, okay.
Yeah, right?
Interesting. How you did that though? One man. How you did that?
No, because it's easy, as a young youth. Nobody gets people see it. Everybody.
This was before WhatsApp.
Long before WhatsApp. Long before WhatsApp. So they were, even if they're I think they were like 2 in the same community, but they lived on different streets. And people are really straight, come out your yard, them kind of thing. I mean, I invite nobody in my yard because they're poor. The others live outside of the community. So as a young youth, Mr. God, listen to me. I'm tired. Like I knew my life was going to go downhill. because I was going to be expelled from Cornwall College. I hadn't gone to school in 10th grade because of how fight I got into. And that prevented me from going to, I was at school, but just never in a class. I was at art class because I'm a computer graphic artist now. And I've always loved drawing and these kind of things. So I went to art class and the teacher never run me out at all. So having failed 10th grade, being in 11th grade, going into 11th grade, I knew I was not going to be recommended for any subject at the general level. It would be the basic level. So when it came November, I knew I would have been out of school. But the July before that, I said to God, listen, my life is done academically. And if you don't save me at this camp, I'll come back at Glendovan and 5 baby mothers. That was my legit thing to God. So I said, save me at camp, I'm going to come back at Montego Bay and I'm going to wreck them 5 girls alive. I'm going to thank God that Wednesday morning, I think about 10 o'clock, we were going out. It was not preaching or nothing like that. We were just going out to Blue Hole, one of the few rivers in Manchester. And they just decided to pray before we leave. And I just bent down at the altar and started crying and said, God, I'm tired of this, like all the burden, the alcoholism, the womanizing, the inner city lifestyle, the flunking out of high school. I'm just tired. Just tired.
Yeah.
And it was there without nobody preaching to me. Because, you know, and again, the reason to keep young people in church is that they hear the gospel even if they don't hear the gospel.
Exactly. So the seed, the seed had been sown.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Courtney was preaching. They had youth week, and I was there because again, I felt comfortable. I could go there in my jeans, but I really just felt comfortable.
Right.
You know, I'm a thank Courtney Gray. Courtney Gray was my first pastor, and I tell her, the first one to give me a mic at 17 and to preach was Courtney Gray.
Yeah.
You know? So when you have, and again, it comes down to seeing potential in a person.
That's it.
I had all the signs and the trails behind me to say, yo, just Laura Robert can go and do him thing. And as a very angry young person as well too. So you know, all them kind of stuff. And
with all that pain and from early days.
So Courtney could have said, you know what? Make him go and do him thing. Just low him up.
Right.
But he and his wife,
which is where so many of us make the mistake. Right? We choose to see a hopeless end for that young person. We choose to see the nothingness. And as we say for this episode, we really want to accentuate that we have to begin to shift the perspective. Because if we keep seeing them as at risk, and if we keep seeing them as destructive and hopeless, then there's not going to be any desire to try to reach them and to try to do anything that can help them to find a different pathway. Right? So you got started there, you got saved at that camp. Courtney Gray saw the potential in you and gave you that mic. And as I say, the rest is history. You from there, you have spoken on stages, high and low,
carrying the baton.
Stages, makeshift stages, no stage at all. You know, we've been to Grenada, to the schools, in the schoolyard, on the football field, right? So what we want to do in the time we have remaining, let's see if we can talk about some of the practical stuff. We want to keep it very practical.
Yeah.
You've mentioned sports, so we could probably start there. I know there is the performing arts, and then there's mentoring. And tell us, really want to hear a bit about the adventure strategy that you would have been a part of a lot in Northern Ireland in particular. We don't have much of that here. You said one thing over and over, and again, I don't want our viewers and listeners to miss it. The ways in which those early persons in your life, they spent money.
Yeah, man.
Right? They sponsored you to camp. They spent money on yourself and those other youth. And so often we talk about that we want to reach youth, but the way we plan our budgets does not support the fact that we claim that we want to reach youth. We don't put the budget where our mouth is.
True.
Even the time.
The time and the energy.
Energy, because those can be taxing, and depending on where the person is, you share your experience. How many persons would take the time out and the energy to say, hey, this young man, these young men, they have potential, and I am going to spend my time and my energy, my efforts, and my money investing in this young man or these young persons. Not a lot of person will do it. They will say it. But when they start, they realize it's too much. Hey, I'm backing out now. I'm not putting so much. I changed my mind. But these persons in your life, they stuck with you.
Because how much is too much? You just can't put a price on an individual's life. And you never know the extent of the impact. I mean, some of these persons who reached out to you and the others perhaps have never left Jamaica.
True.
You have. And you have touched lives. I mean, I'm seeing some of the young people in South Africa when we went there. I'm seeing some of them right now. And even today, 7, 8 years later, some of them are still reaching out and connecting and thanking us for pouring into their lives. So you never know the multiplier effect when you see a young person at potential and you pour into them. So share with us about what you've done what has worked for you in terms of sports, these unconventional things, but yet that are so effective.
So I think I've worked across most of the disciplines and spectrums. Like while in high school, I was involved to the latter part after I got saved, we started a ministry called Explicit Youth Ministry. And it was a drama-based ministry. So we've been to Case, we've been to Bethlehem Teachers College, we've been all over the island. We were on Love FM at different points. And again, that kept, so a lot of the guys from the church we got saved in, they became a part of that. And then other churches became a part of that. And that kept me growing because I was not, as much as I preach, bro, I never wanted a mic in my hand for pulpit, Like my ideal ministry to this day is a trailer back, I press one button, and it open up, and I can have a drama stage, I can have music. That, like, if I get rich tomorrow,
that's the dream.
I bring into Jamaica state of the art truck performance ministry. That's from I got saved, that has just been my thing, not the mic in my hand kind of vibes. So the drama works.
Even so, Lord, so let it be.
Yeah, you get me? I say, because even if I don't go on the stage, I've been to the States to do Christian acting ministry, and so it's still a part of me, still something I enjoy. So having that expression of arts is essential. I don't think we understand how much especially those of us from African ascent, how much we ooze creativity.
Yeah, but I mean,
we have been shut in.
Look at the Roots plays, for example, Robert. Look at the Roots plays. They go around Jamaica, the Del Cetas and the Shibadas, and some of those others. They go around Jamaica, and it is bumper crowd at every stop. Every stop.
It's if we don't lock into the arts, if we don't lock into the sports and into the skills ministries. So let me say, so for me, sports. Let me start with sports. Sports, I was working with a church over in Rosemount, and it was every Tuesday, Thursday, I had 40 odd young people. I never go out and on with a flyer. I never invite nobody. 40 young people, men and women, on that court, and the church stopped it. I was working with a church up in Whitehall Avenue.
Wait.
The church stopped it.
Say that again.
The budget never aligned.
Word.
Yeah.
To this day, when I see them youth in town,
Yes.
Robert, like they still have this certain level of respect because I would talk to them. I would pull one of them
Absolutely.
aside, and these youth guys came from surrounding inner city communities.
Right. Tough guys.
Tough guys. And they were coming out every Tuesday and Thursday.
Right.
I was working with a church in on Whitehall Avenue as well. Again, inner city youth from the community.
Right.
I had
Whitehall, Kingston.
Kingston. Yeah. I had one incident of cuss word. One incident, and these are all young boys. They were all under 14 at the time.
Right.
And we were out at Whitehall Primary School, running up and down, me wanting to beat them demo, and it was just that kind of camaraderie. And they started coming to church. Again, the church budget never aligned, and they pulled the plug on that. Right. I look on examples like Fellowship Tabernacle.
Right.
And New Life, which both had the largest ratio of male to female.
Males, absolutely.
Out of sports ministry.
Right.
Yeah. No, so that's sports.
New Life had I think a 100 man choir at one point.
Choir at one point, and a lot of them were young people, young men. And these guys came from Cassava Peace and those communities and stuff like that. And the lanes have Pastor Rob name in one I'm sang them. Because he used to visit the church as well. But he not play ball, but in Bridgman used to come up and play ball.
Right.
So the churches I've seen that excel with winning men are the churches that target the things that men want to be a part of.
What men do naturally.
Yeah.
It's not a competition, It's about using the very things, reaching men and youth where they are as they are. So I mean, I think we have it twisted.
Very much.
And it's as if we can't seem to see that we are flogging some dead horses. We are scratching where nobody is itching. And our youth remain where they are instead of where they need to be.
Yeah, man. And so if we lock onto certain things and look at the bigger picture, we recognize that it makes no sense standing to take a penalty when the ball is at the halfway line. And a lot of times we're doing that and hoping to score, and we'll never ever score.
That's right.
Now,
that's right.
Skills ministry is the next thing that we don't do here. And through Northern Ireland, and when we went to South Africa, Farming God's Way, we see the effect that can have.
Yes.
Jesus Christ walked around with men who were mostly fishermen. They already had their skills. He himself was a carpenter. You look on the Hebraic society, it was a skills-based didactic society. So through skills, catechism was experienced. Through skills, the teaching of the word was experienced.
Life on life. The experience.
Life on life.
Experience.
So if a lot of churches need to clear out some of the Sunday school rooms and put in 2 woodwork tables inside there, if you're a rural church, you level off a piece of land and get some people to come in and farm, do some hydroponics, explore different ways of doing skills for ministry's sake.
I think we have missed it big time. We have missed the mark, and then we're just running around. We're just running around with no agenda. What's the agenda for the youth?
And then of course there is the income that can be generated from this. So you're solving multiple problems at the same time. So about hydroponics, there is what you call it, apiary, bee, right, and honey. There's ornamental fish farming as well. There's so much, and it does not take a lot of resources. It simply.
But if you go to RADA with some of these plans, RADA will actually assist you. And I think that sometimes the church complains about. For every solution, we find a problem.
We find several problems.
Yeah. So the resort, if you're in a rural or urban setting, these things can work. One of the things I used to do with young men at church, I had a program, and in Jamaica, we don't really have a curriculum-based program for youths. So one of the things I did, 2 things I did at church. Because you have to cater for everybody. Some persons don't like sports, not going to do the skills thing. So I had a thing called Navigator, which I took on board from Emmanuel Apostolic Church. Theirs is called Incubator, but I tweaked mine for our setting. And we had a next thing called Ties and Tiara, where I started with the boys, and we sometimes had up to 15 boys coming and I'd cook breakfast I think twice for the month, 2 Saturdays out of the month. So I'd cook breakfast and then I had a curriculum of personal development aimed directly to boys. Yes. So the who am I questions were answered. We looked at etiquette, we looked at just trying to make boys into men. And allowing them, allowing them to be boisterous and to, talking to them in roots language, make them know, say, afraid with what is happening in society and in their world. And it was it amazed me at how successful it was. And the boys kept asking for it. Sadly, COVID came and kind of derailed it, but I'm looking to start it back in the new year. It was a 12-month-long program, and they wanted to be a part of it. But I think we are not intentional.
That's the word.
That's the word. We do things.
That's the word.
Yeah, we're not intentional. So, for example, coming out of COVID now, my youth meetings look way different than they used to in 2020, like January 2020.
Yeah. Is it better?
Every Friday night, every single Friday night, I go down there, I light the grill, I put some burgers on the grill. Every single Friday night since we started back in March. I started first with soup.
Yeah.
And then I recognized
anywhere there's food, you'll find people.
And I wanted them to come out from early.
Food and a football or something.
This Friday coming, it's BYM, bring your meat.
Tomorrow.
So and everybody bring them own meat, season it and drop it on the grill.
So, I remember we did something like that in South Africa when I was there the first time. They call it's called braai. And it was a similar thing. Some of the biggest chicken legs I've seen in my life was that thing. But again, it was predominantly men. And you know what came to me while we were doing that? The primal nature of the man. We teach on the gibor, the man as a warrior. And back when the males would go and hunt and they would roast the meat right there in the woods or bring the animals back, and it becomes a celebration in the colony as they put the meat on the fire. And we spoke about that even as the meat was on the grill. Powerful stuff.
And let me say, because people may ask, why are we just focusing on males? The reality is this, primarily in our, not just in our context, but outside of our context. When you look on the perpetrators and the victims, more than 90% of them are men.
And simultaneously, the perpetrators and the victims.
Are young men. Under 35. So if we are going to try to change society, and the church has to become a bit more intentional in how you reach men. Church is very attractive to females. Even though now the church has lost its attractiveness to the Gen Zers. And I just finished teaching a course on youth ministry, and I was talking about the Gen Zers. I did like a sketch of the Gen Zers, and we haven't even started tapping into the Generation Alpha, which is a whole totally different dispensation as well.
And the church hasn't even quite.
They have not even caught up with it.
To the millennials.
They've not caught up at all.
Not even millennials, bro. Like
to the millennials.
Listen, if just the church service alone on a Sunday morning is totally alienating the millennials. I find millennials, like I work with millennials because my entire leadership team, everyone on it is a millennial. And I tell them, like, me and them knock heads because I tell them I struggle to deal with them on a leadership basis. So for 2 years I turned over everything to them to plan my youth meeting. And now I'm back planning everything. Because they've just said, you know what, we want your input, and the input went from just the input to now you plan and we'll come and execute. You get me? So we have to, like, if you are doing something you did 2020,
Yes.
You are way behind it.
Way
behind.
It's just the nature of the thing.
Yeah.
Everything is changing so rapidly.
Yep.
Right? And it forces you to have to do more and be more. And that's probably part of the problem.
Yeah.
A lot of us are just too lazy.
You spoke about like the budget behind it. I think like because a lot of these young people know, and I like the Gen Zers, there's a thing about Gen Zers that I really, really like, and the church is again not afraid to this. Gen Zers are going to get married much later than any other generation.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not because
if they get married at all.
Yeah. It's not because of a bad thing.
Yeah.
But Popcorn do a song say family, and we say family.
Yep.
How the Gen Zers relate on a social level is that their friendships replace the familial bonds.
Yeah.
So they see friends as family.
Right.
Yes, and as a result, the companionship, you have Gen Zers living together in a co-sharing platonic relationship.
Yeah, nothing intimate, nothing sexual.
Nothing at all.
But there's that bond, and that's what matters.
So they invest together, they buy houses together, they do all these because they see that as a family. Now, if the church can provide that space, space where
that space?
Friends can come, become family, and then you give them the identity, that familial identity in Christ.
Yeah.
That's just how we're going to reach them. You have to take off the jacket and tie and put on the polo shirt and jeans and allow them to see themselves, to see in you a friend who they can potentially make into a family.
Right.
So even that outlook has to change. It has to be driven from a different place. You spoke about my philosophy in youth ministry, borrowing from Stephen Covey. Everything I do within my youth ministry. So I came up with a 4-part. I think I use in planning, where it has the me, them, objectives, goals, activities, all that kind of thing. And I tell my young people, my leaders now, do not come to me with any activity that you do not have the resources to implement.
Right.
Yeah. So when I do that, what I'm saying to them is, one, make sure that you plan first. Right. But also don't come to me with an activity that you don't have a why for, you don't have an objective for.
That's it.
Just don't do because you want to do.
Yeah, doing for doing sake. Yeah.
So I'm driven by a why philosophy. Why am I doing this? Why do I cook on a Friday night? Yes. Why do I spend my Fridays going to the market, going to CPJ, going to Mega Mart, so I can come and do burgers on a grill? Why?
Yeah.
It's the first time in my youth ministry I'm having a lot more teenagers coming out than the millennials and the Gen Zers.
Right.
Which is what I'm going after.
Right.
Yeah. So I have most of the teenagers who are coming, they are coming out now. I'm able to have a team of 12 teenagers versus 12 adults on a Friday night, on any given Friday night.
Yeah.
I count last week, I had 30 odd young people in youth meeting coming out of COVID.
Right.
Yeah? Coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
So when I was online, I at different points, I had 40 odd, 60 odd young people online. And for the first time, I'm saying, yes, I'm now reaching my teenagers.
Right. Exactly.
I'm reaching my teenagers. The problem I have, though, TJ and Lati, is this. Because at one of the just to speak to parents. To speak to parents. My biggest struggle in youth ministry is not the young people, is the parents believing that what is on offer is worth their time and effort.
Yeah.
So I resist any parent that comes to me and say, I wanted to talk to Daniel for me.
Yeah.
I'm saying to you, no.
Detachment.
No, I'm not going to talk to Daniel like that. Bring Daniel to me so I can develop a relationship with your child.
Right.
And from that, I can easily segue into a conversation that's meaningful. One of the things, I have some young people now who play netball and football, and in the coming season, I'll be at, as many of their games I can go to.
Yeah.
Yeah? So the parents have to believe in what is happening there. The next thing I'm recognizing is that parents don't take catechism serious. And it's being left to the youth pastor, the youth minister, and the church to catechize a child.
Yeah.
That's a backward.
By that we mean an organized system of training and teaching.
Yeah. It is not my responsibility to catechize a child. It's not my responsibility to train up your child in the way he or she should grow.
Yeah.
I tell them if they are doing it right, I would just come and be like an entertainment coordinator. I keep them active and involved.
Right.
Yeah.
So the parents have to understand the importance of not having a child at the back of the church with them tablet while church is going on, but having a child beside you. So when I go up there and I talk about eschatology, the child can look at you and say, Mommy and Daddy, what does that mean? And you are there immediately to give an answer. Right. Yes? I saw a young boy came to our church and the pastor was up there in a talith, you know? And the young boy turned to his parents, confused.
Yeah.
And said, is pastor a Jew?
Right.
Why does he have on this? Because they do religious education in school.
Yeah.
That is important. The boy needs to be able to turn to either parent at any time and say, this is happening in church that day. Where you get what I'm saying? So when they come to me now, I'm just reinforcing what you are doing at home. I'm showing them the fun side. The loudmouth dreadlocks youth pastor who want to beat them at everything.
Right. Domino or
competitive.
Football. Yeah, or cricket or whatever.
Yes. So you have said a lot of things, and I am here just thinking and going over the information in my head, and I'm saying, boy, church for really look like outside for real.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Church really look like outside and be outside and do what outside things do. And I am just really excited, and I've learned a lot. It was really informative for me because I have a son and I have a daughter. Yeah. So, and growing up in this paradigm now, you know, things are going to be different, questions are going to be asked. So it's really, it was really enriching. And we know that we have to get to come back.
Yeah,
anytime.
We have to continue the conversation.
Parents and also how we do church and how church leaders can, you know, start doing something and to continue doing it. And so you have to come back. I've learned so much. I want to thank you for sharing
avec pleasure
life with us, sharing it, and so other people can say, hey, it's not where I was born or where I live, but where I am going. That is most important.
Potential.
And I have the potential to do and be whatever I can, whether you're a man or you're a woman, and whether you're a parent or you want to be a parent, or even if you want to be a youth leader, pastor, whatever, and that we have to do church differently for young people. So we want to thank you for tonight, Robbie. We thank you very, very much.
It was my pleasure.
We have run out of time, but it's exciting. We could chat all night, but we will come back again with part 2 of this exciting discussion.
Definitely. Tell folks how they can get in touch with you, and what are some of the things that you're available for.
All right, so catering, I just started getting I'm doing weddings, baby showers, all this kind of thing.
The chef.
So and that's all island. Wherever you are in Jamaica or even overseas.
I'll get to you. But I also do a lot of training through different entities. So, you know, that I'm available to do that kind of thing as well. I am the technical and communication director at church as well. So I have 2 lights at either side of me right now using a DSLR camera. So all those kind of things, I can come into your church, set that up for you at a minimal cost. Advise you as well how to get your streams up and running to be relevant in this dispensation. Seminars, public speaking, motivational things, all of that kind of stuff. Book publishing, the works. You can find me at Yahweh Height on Instagram. Yahweh Height.
Spell that out for
so YAHWEHITE, Yahweh Height on Instagram. Email address is northernIreland2006@gmail.com. And Ishden, if you go to YouTube and type Ishden, ISHDEN, one channel will come up. And that's my channel. You can reach out to me through that inbox as well.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Robbie. And we're gonna put those in the show notes on the show's website.
Yeah.
And then we're posting to Spotify, as well as on Instagram. Remember, we are on Instagram. Follow us. This is us, Jones Clan. So we're gonna have that there. Leave your comments. If you have a question for Robbie, you have a comment on the show, please send it in. Share the video. We have a heart for the nation. We have a heart for the nations.
Yeah.
Right. Robbie and I have traveled to several countries and just shared how the word of God and how the love of God has transformed us and helped us to be where we are and overcome our beginning and have a new ending. All right. So thanks again, Robbie. We'll definitely continue with this conversation. To all our viewers, our listeners, great having you. Let's continue the conversation. This is us. It's all about our journey, your journey, our stories, your stories. And all of us at This Is Us. Thanks again. Have a wonderful evening and see you next time. Bless up.